Welcome back to the Kaiser Report. I'm Max Kaiser. Time now to turn to Simon Dixon of Banks of the Future. Simon, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
What an incredible adventure. You wrote the book in 2010, Banks of the Future, the first published book that mentions Bitcoin. And we met up at the 2011 Prague, which was considered to be the first Bitcoin event ever. And of course, back then, the price was $1 or less than $1. Maybe 50 or 60 people in the world knew about Bitcoin. And here we are in 2022. You've just arrived in San Salvador, El Salvador, and the country has made Bitcoin legal tender. What's your first impression?
Well, I'm really looking forward to seeing what's happening here, but there's a lot of excitement. This is my third attempt at trying to support and be involved in a country that's going to actually do something with Bitcoin and benefit from the 69 million% returns that have been generated over the last 13 years. Individuals have benefited from it. Companies have benefited it. Now countries are benefiting from it. And El Salvador looks like they're finally doing it. When there was a little in the UK, back in the UK where we first attempted this, there was talk in House of Parliament today about the importance of supporting fintech and cryptocurrency. And it rewound me back over a decade ago when I was trying to say the same thing. And then the Bank of England decided to put their evil tentacles in and stop the UK from benefiting from it. So it looks like El Salvador is going to be the country that's doing it. The first government I've ever seen that says they're going to do something and then implements it faster, which is a really good sign. And so I think this is the country everyone's going to be coming to.
Yeah, as you mentioned, this is the third country that you're aware of that has tried to or talked about making Bitcoin legal tender. And but now they really have executed on it. They've done exactly what they said they were going to do in record time. They've got the government behind them. They're passing all kinds of new securities laws now to support the creation and distribution of volcano bonds, Bitcoin bonds. Now, Samson Mao over at Blockstream has said that he believes that the volcano bonds are the most important development in Bitcoin since Bitcoin. Your thoughts?
This is the country's opportunity to really show that a country can do something without a central bank having to deflate their currency, manipulate interest rates, and show that you can actually rely upon a central bank where you have absolutely no control over, and it's just regulated by maths and code, and that is Bitcoin. So to be able to benefit from not being able to change its supply, not being able to manipulate its value through interest rates, not being able to change it through open market operations and shenanigans, means that you actually get to just benefit from digital hard sound money. So now that the government is issuing bonds that are backed by Bitcoin, they get to show the world that you can significantly outperform anything that any government or central bank has ever created, independent of needing any intervention at all. So I really look forward to seeing where this is going. And if the next 13 years look anything like the last 13 years, then this is going to be the smartest move. And this is going to be one of the highest growing countries that out there.
The GDP is already up roughly 10% this year. It looks like it's going to double again next year. And these volcano bonds are really getting a lot of attention around the world. The IMF, of course, is nervous because they've had a monopoly or an oligopoly with these central banks for a long time and dictating economic policies around the world, even at the detriment of all these countries, including El Salvador. They put out a statement this week, Simon, basically begging El Salvador, please stop all this Bitcoin shenanigans that are going on. When you read something like that, what do you think?
Well, it's just natural behavior. The IMF want a monopoly, and the World Bank, these big, large organizations, inter-country organizations, they want monopoly. And, there's many documented history about the negative impacts that World Bank and IMF loans has had throughout Latin America and different developing countries. And of course, that is the strategy, is to lend as many dollars as you can, control the supply of dollars, and then have unaffordable loans so that you can then have those dollars go back to the country. It was all covered in Confessions of an Economic Hitman. And then once you've got that, you can lose sovereignty in that country.
Yeah, as you point out, the book Confessions of an Economic Hitman really detailed the whole process of making these egregious loans to countries so they can't pay them back. It's a wealth extraction scheme. The opposition here in this country is actually lauding the scheme and saying, we don't want to kick out the economic hitman. We think John Perkins in that book is a role model that we're trying to follow. That's how confused the opposition is here. Fortunately, they're minuscule and have no weight whatsoever. But let's talk about these bonds. What we know so far, it's a 6.5% coupon, 10-year bond, 50% goes into Bitcoin at a 5-year lockup. Half is earmarked for infrastructure, and the dividend is actually backed by tax, as I understand it. Is that what we're looking for? Any other color you can add?
We literally flew here, landed here, because we want to be first to see the securities laws and the prospectus. So there's been a lot of design work going on. I think Samson has been really supporting in that process, designing it with Blockstream.
Right. The securities laws are very important, right? Because the country is actually re-architecting their securities laws from the ground up to be Bitcoin centric. So I think that's what, when people say this is the biggest thing in Bitcoin since Bitcoin, I think that's part of what they refer to, because this is the securitization of Bitcoin and the possible global securitization that comes with Bitcoin. And for countries like El Salvador, they could potentially retire all their IMF debt. They could retire all of their external debt, but it gets back to writing laws that are Bitcoin centric. And I know you're anxious to actually see what's under the hood and what's going on. And I know the folks that are making the draft of these laws are anxious to get you involved as quickly as possible. I think starting in the next 6 hours, you're going to be called in to begin perusing. What do you expect to see, or what's your anticipation on that?
The securities laws are really the difference between whether you have a wealth effect in your population or not. So many Western securities laws, particularly in the US, UK, it's really been lifetime work for the last decade of really trying to get those so that they're more inclusive. Because the securities laws in UK and in US, they really do make the rich richer and the poor poorer. So if you get this right, you can really generate an incredible effect. We at Bank to the Future, when we first started trying to invest in Bitcoin companies, and we wanted to allow people to invest in Bitcoin companies, the regulators protected all of our investors from the highest performing asset class in history and prevented many people from investing in them. After 3 years of trying to change everything, we had to leave the country. We went to multiple countries in order to try and make this happen. So now we've built a decade of experience we could have all of the company, we've investments made through Bank to the Future are companies like $100 billion companies like Coinbase, Kraken, Bitfinex, Bitstamp. All of those companies were looking for a home at one stage. And whoever got this right could have had the whole industry in terms of all the jobs, everything that came from that, and hundreds of $billions of market capitalization as this industry grew. Now it looks like El Salvador's finally creating that home. And by getting the securities laws right, you can allow people, the population, to benefit from all the financial innovation that we've built over the years, and allow people to have retirement plans built around Bitcoin, and just really, have a wealth effect across all the people at every type of level, rather than just driving that wealth inequality that we see through draconian securities laws in other countries.
These regulators like the SEC in the United States, and they've yet to approve a Bitcoin Cash ETF yet, which is a remarkable example of protecting their sponsors, and those are the big Wall Street banks. They're a captured regulator. It's quite obvious. Same thing in the FCA. They're a captured regulator. They don't work on behalf of the public at all. They're lining their own pockets, obviously. But here in El Salvador, there's a chance to create securities laws with the benefit of the population, of the average person, right?
Yeah, and that's what it's all about. We have this asset class that has been the highest performing asset class in history. Regulators protected their population from having 69 million% returns. And yet El Salvador can come along now, and they can build custom-built securities laws that allow countries and their country initially to benefit from Bitcoin through the Volcano Bond. And then they can have individual level products, they can have company level products, and they have country level products. And to build the securities laws based upon what we know about the technology today is a huge advantage, as we've seen in other areas like Africa, just leapfrogging banking and going straight to more advanced technology with their financial affairs. And I can't wait to see, this is what this is all about. And the securities laws is a vital part of it. They got the legal tender, get the securities right, and you've got your double punch.
There is talk of El Salvador becoming effectively the Singapore of Latin America, of Central America. Your thoughts on that?
I think it's bigger than Singapore. I think Singapore is, a haven across Asia. This is the reinvention of securities markets, bond markets, currency markets. This is setting the example for the world that, this is more like a Bretton Woods II moment where money is being renegotiated. And the US put itself at the front of that and then reneged on the gold standard that they negotiated in '71. This is Bretton Woods II being renegotiated, but based upon digital hard sound money that nobody controls. So there's no vested interest there. There's no central bank or company or country that's going to benefit from that because anyone can participate. So if El Salvador gets this right, I think this goes viral across Latin America. I think this goes, and it then goes up the chain. The very last country that will adjust to this will be the ones that have the vested interests. The European central banks, the Federal Reserves, the US, the Europes of the world, the Britain, the pound. They'll be the last to adjust. So this, to me, is a David beats Goliath moment that can have game theoretical, where the earlier you adapt and follow what El Salvador does here, the more likely you are to benefit until the very last person or the very last country that adapts to this. So I think it's much, much bigger than just creating a Singapore here.
Well, we already know that a lot of things happening in Argentina now. Brazil is stepped up, start talking about Bitcoin. Other countries in Central America are now rumored to be possibly in line to make Bitcoin legal tender in the very, very near future. Well, anyway, Simon, it's great to see you. And I think that the A team is in place for this volcano bond to really take the world by storm. Thanks for being on the Kaiser Report.
Yeah, thanks for sharing this whole journey. I can't wait to see where we go next.
All righty. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of Kaiser Report with me, Max Kaiser, and Stacey Herbert. I want to thank our guest, Simon Dixon of Bank to the Future. Until next time, bye, y'all.